Okay, welcome back, everyone. That means we're quiet. Okay, the next presenter we have for the evening is Mr. Dr. Dean Kriellaars. I think everyone has seen his resume or write-up that's in the brochure here. I think there's only a couple lines that you actually need to read to get something out of it, and it demonstrates, or it says that Dean is a global leader in physical literacy. That's not just in Winnipeg, that's not just in Manitoba, that's not just in Canada, that's globally. I talked to Dean a number of times over the years and tried to get him to present at our season opener, but he's, I say globally, he's a world traveler, he's all over the place. I spoke to him just a couple of weeks ago, and he just happened to be in the middle of the afternoon, and he says he picked up his phone right away, and he just happened to be in Sweden. So we conversed a little bit in Sweden. I lived over there for a couple of years, and so we said a few words. We have no idea what we were talking about, but we had a brief conversation. But without any further delay here, I'd like to introduce Dean. He's got a great story. He's been involved in a number of different areas, and I'm sure some of the stories that he'll share and some of his experiences will be very worthwhile. So I'd just like to welcome Dr. Dean Kriellaars.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I just came from Sweden, and so it was really nice to see the stairways that made fun happen in Sweden. The first building in the world designed based on physical literacy, which I'm going to talk about today, was built in Sweden. They've built an entire building based on that principle that you saw in the little stairs that had the musical piano on it. I work at Cirque du Soleil. My primary job is in the circus industry. Next week, I'll be in Montreal. We have 1,800 performers at Cirque du Soleil, 3,500 support staff, 31 shows worldwide. We do 357 shows each performer every year for up to 40 years. We make $1.8 billion a year, and our total complement of athletes, artists in our case, is bigger than the NHL. The interesting thing about that is my job is to make them perform at the highest level that you pay a lot of money for to sit in the seats and watch every day. They can't have a bad shift. In our game, it's a gold medal every single time you perform. Otherwise, see you later. So we trade our artists as assets instead of commodities. And that's something that a lot of sports come to circus to say, how do you do what you do every day for 30 or 40 years? Our oldest performer on stage is older than me, 68 years old, and does everything that an 18-year-old does. These are things that I came from high performance sport. I'm now in circus, but I'm here to help you, because I love sport, to understand how we can make people durable. Durable for life, durable mentally, durable physically, durable socially, so that even when they're not in sport, they can really withstand the pressures of day-to-day life. So this slide I took from Hockey Canada's website a few minutes ago, and I dropped it on this presentation for you to read. If you read, it says active for life, and it says from 0 to 12 years of age, we must develop, the primary goal of hockey is to develop physical literacy. Amazing statement. What does that mean? What does that look like? What is that? I don't even know what physical literacy means. I'm one of the people who designed long-term athlete development in Canada, and as a result of that, Sport Canada in 2012 had every single sport adopt the concept of physical literacy. Are we anywhere close to implementing it? Nowhere close. Are we moving one of the fastest moving countries in the world on physical literacy? Yes, we are. Does every Canadian know the term? No. So that's what I'm here to talk about today. Make physical literacy real, because as we heard from Scott, we've got some issues in sport. Sport does bad things to people. Quality sport doesn't. You're here today because you want quality sport. You want quality hockey. I want quality hockey. And so one of the ways I do quality work is by understanding physical literacy. So this is where I work. next week in Montreal. Cirque du Soleil headquarters are right there. And we have a program called Confidence by Design. That's our big program for helping all of our artists be confident in what they do. And this is really important because if I were to ask you, is confidence important as a coach, as a parent, as an administrator? All of you are going to say yes, instantly. But the interesting thing about confidence is, what are you doing in a coaching session to develop confidence? We always focus on technical, tactical skill sets, which are great. But what are you intentionally doing in your lesson plans? And what builds confidence and what destroys confidence? I can tell you, working in all the high performance sports sectors that I work in, that if you have two people that have the same competence, they're good on ice, both equally well in practice. The person that's confident performs. The person that doesn't believe in himself does not perform and gets injured more. We in hockey need to understand, as coaches, as parents, as officials, as administrators, how to build confidence and how not to erode it. I work for USA Hockey, not Hockey Canada, and we have an entire program called Physical Literacy by Design for under 12 years of age to 3 million coaches based on physical literacy. We no longer use the horseshoe drill. If you look at the horseshoe drill and all the principles behind it, it actually is one of the most confidence eroding drills on the face of the planet, and maybe one of the primary reasons why people leave the sport. This is critical to understand this, and I'm happy to discuss. I could sit down in a workshop here with all of you and say, give you some principles, and at each table, how do you make the horseshoe drill great? How do you do it? And I guarantee, I just give you the principles, you'll figure it out. But what we do is we keep replicating what was done before and in the past, and we need to change that thinking. In the circus world, our job is to create brand new movement every single day. And I can tell you, I have the videotapes of the very first time a person scooped up the puck and dumped it over the shoulder of a goalie. And that was an interesting, creative moment in hockey. Some people thought that was cheating. Some people thought it was great. But it's still now a major thing. How do you teach that? That's a creative concept in hockey. We value innovation. We value creativity. What are you doing on ice to make kids creative? That's critical. What does creativity look like on a coaching session? We're really good at saying, do this, do that, don't do that. Can't you read the rules? And that's okay. Being prescriptive, telling kids what to do is okay. But giving them the freedom to think on their own is even more important. So for us in the circus industry, we do that all the time. This is one of the shows that we have. This is called Bunkeen, and you can see all the people there being thrown in the air in great heights. Basically from me to the cameras at the back, we're tossing people in the air. And the people who toss people around are called porters. The people who fly in the air are called flyers. And there's two girls in that picture right there. They both do the same act, and they can literally fly from me to where the cameras are at the back and do a double twisting, double back, and land on their hands of the big Russian dudes across the way that you can see looking at the person about to land on them. That's an amazing feat that they have to do that many times a day. And the interesting thing is, I knew the girl on the left-hand side. She's a USA gymnast that we stole from gymnastics. She was third place in gymnastics, never going to make it to first. Come on over to circus. We'll pay you $90,000 a year. You want to be good at something for 40 years? Sure. Comes on over. But I hadn't met the other person. So I went backstage, and everybody in circus knows me as the silver-haired guy because I always wear T-shirts. That's what we do in circus. And we wear blue jeans, and you walk around in black T-shirts and blue jeans. And I walked backstage to meet the flyers, and I knew the USA gymnast, and I came up to meet the other person. Their makeup was off, and they had more wrinkles than me. I went, "Oh, do you mind me asking how old you are?" She says, "I'm 58. And she was doing exactly the same thing as the 18-year-old. I was like, "What?" And then she got so excited that I was excited about who she was 58 and could do stuff like that. And she pulled her husband towards me, and he's on the screen as well. He's there with his hands like this, and he gets to throw his wife around for a living. This is really his job. And he was 62. Right after I saw that, because I work with all 1,800 performers at Soleil, I had their bone density measured, the bone density of all of the performers, and they go up to 68. And what you'll know from this is that if you have really good bones, if you look at the right-hand side and take 16,000 steps a day, your bones will look really thick and have a nice shape to it. If you take 3,500 steps a day, your bones will look really thin and have a circular shape. And the interesting thing to me is that I always want to say to people, does hockey do good things for your body? Does hockey do good things for your brain? These are cool things to be able to say what our sports do. So I actually measured all the bone density of all of the people. And what you're going to be told by medical people, where I work at the Rady Faculty of Health Sciences, that bone will go away after 30 years of age. And I just told you our oldest performer is 68. And I want to show you something here. This is a slide of all the performers, all 1,800 of them. And if you look, the blue is the females, the green is the males going from 20 to 68. If you go back on one slide, you'll see that from 30 to 68, boys' bones decrease in bone density and girls' bones decrease as well in the normal population. But if you stay active for life, like the circus people, your bones stay perfect till 65. That's a great news story. What do people who play hockey for life look like? That's a really important question. I'm 63. I still skate and play, bring my stick out and ride my puck down the Assiniboine River all the time. But in the end of the day, I like to think about, what does hockey do for me in life? We're all talking about what does we do in hockey, but what does hockey do for a person in life? A really important question to start to think about. So I'm wanting to talk today to you about quality sport, because I think a lot of sport in this world is masquerading as sport, and it's really not sport, it's bad. We in hockey want quality sport, that's what you're here for, and I'm all about that. And I'm going to talk about the missing pieces. And Scott and I did not talk prior to this presentation, and it was phenomenal that what he brought up as Hockey Canada's motifs are the same ones. I want participation excellence. What does that look like? I want to know how many people are playing hockey for life. That's a good question. How many 60-year-olds? It's not all about children. Hockey is a sport that can be enjoyed by all people. Don't just think under 18 or World Juniors. It's my age, isn't it? Is that your job? Better be, because otherwise you're ageists, and I'm not into that. I'm like, hey, I like to play hockey at 2 o'clock in the morning for when I pay $60 an hour on the rink. Would be great. But what does participation excellence look like? And that's where the stats come in. But I also want performance excellence. And we in hockey need to take a really big step back about thinking that the only way to think we're good in the world is by thinking we win the worlds. Performance excellence means that some kids joins up in hockey, they're going to get better over time. That's performance excellence, period. And if everybody's improving, what a wonderful success story, as opposed to, did we win the cup? I like winning things. I've worked with a lot of high performance teams in my life, New Jersey Devils, Houston Astros, WTA women's tennis stars, etc. And I like it when they go win their medals and things like that. But I go, hey, I'm glad I could help. You did all the hard work. You got better and you succeeded in your right. So what are the puzzle pieces that are missing? Scott and Peter brought this up, retention. How do you retain people in this sport? If they leave for the right reasons, I like Zumba better, go. See you later. That's fine. Zumba's fine, leave. But if they leave for the wrong reasons, we need to stop that. If they leave because a coach was abusive, was shaming children, these are things we can't tolerate anymore. We need to think about retention very intelligently. Inclusion was spoken about today. I think that's really critical. Who's there? That's interesting. It's who's not there. Who's in hockey today? Who's not there? The next one is eradicating gender bias, and I'm going to talk about that in a big way in a second, and so you understand what it means. USA Hockey taught me something that was really cool. They adopted a concept in 2010 and are just implementing it now in seriousness, where they said, we develop people first, athletes second, players third. I thought that was a neat concept. You come to my team, I'm here for you as a person first. Then I'm here for you as an athlete, and then I'm here for you as a player. That's an interesting concept to me. And if you take that forward out of this day, you see people as a whole instead of seeing them just as an instrument of technical skill. Life beyond performance hockey, I worked at the MJHL for a long time. Maybe 2 people get drafted from the MJHL per year. Interestingly enough, 498 have nothing because they've hung their hat entirely on performance hockey. And when that leaves at 21 years of age, their life spirals into an identity crisis. You all know this. That's why you're really quiet right now. And I accept that. We're not going to talk about that publicly, but we need to think about life after hockey. What does that look like? What do we need to help people thinking about and doing while they're in the MJHL, that when they leave, they have a life beyond performance hockey? Speaking openly to. So I think physical literacy has some of the answers and creates a nice puzzle. So there's a definition by the United States of what physical literacy is. It's the ability, confidence, and motivation to be physically active for life. There's the Canadian consensus statement. You get all of these slides. I'm not going to read it to you because, to tell you the truth, the definitions of physical literacy are rather boring. But I'm going to try to instill upon you how to think about physical literacy. Canada is the first country in the world to have a consensus statement as of June 2015. Sweden, Ireland just announced their consensus statements just this year. So physical literacy is a new topic, but it's important. That's the entire consensus statement, 2 pages long. This is the critical piece, this diagram, this little cartoon. It basically says that if we develop in people competence, and at the same time we develop confidence, they'll be motivated to continue. And if they continue participating in hockey, they'll get more competence, more confidence, and be motivated. If you break that cycle in any way, the person goes, see you later, that wasn't fun. And let me tell you, children, Amanda Visick is the top fun researcher in the world. She studies what is fun. She's the doctor of fun. That's pretty cool. Her master's students are the masters of fun. What a lab. I want to move to that lab. But Amanda's a good friend. She was a figure skater growing up, but she studied in soccer and in hockey. What do kids think are fun? 81 things they came up with, of which the number 2 is learning something new. Kids tell us learning something new is fun. So are all your kids in your coaching sessions learning something new? That's a good question to ask. That's a really good question to ask, because if 20% aren't, that's not fun. See you later. It's not about ha, 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 laughing out loud and belly laughing and shaking hands with other people. Fun is about learning something new. Amanda Visick's work can help you further. But this cycle, if it gets broken, is really bad. So what we want in hockey, and I want you to think about this as coaches, as parents, as teachers, as early childhood educators, if you develop competence in people and at the same time intentionally develop confidence, we know for sure that makes people motivated to continue. So what you can see with this, I want to turn this engine on. This is physical literacy. It's not about getting fit. I am the person who does all the measurements of the NHL Combine, me. And I predict NHL Combine data, fitness data, in performance of all teams in the NHL. That's my job. And I can tell you the relationship between fitness and performance in the NHL is 0. The combines are great things to get people to watch, aren't they? They're cool to watch. Look at this happening there. Look how many chin-ups can they do, etc. But off-ice performance, strength and conditioning has at best 20% prediction of performance on ice, at best 20%. And yet In this province, we have many people doing adult strength and conditioning programs and applying them to 12-year-olds, which is a crime. I see some good heads shaking like that. If you're the person who thinks bench press makes better performance on ice, or even squats, it's not, there's no evidence. It's weak at best. So we think that this is the cycle that you want to work on. Competence and movement, confidence and confidence, competence and confidence. And this is a complicated slide, but I'm just going to say it. If you turn on that cycle, if you turn that thing on, you get a positive movement experience. If you deactivate it, you get a negative movement experience. If you shame a kid in front of another kid, they'll remember that for 40 years. Shaming never should happen in sport. Doesn't mean you can't feel a little bit of shame on ice, but if they have fun, enjoyment, and pride, you can have pride. I feel good about what I was doing at the same time as getting a little bit of shame. That's okay. But if you only feel shame on ice, see you later. And even if your parents paid for that child to be in front of you every single day, think about it. The kid's checked out mentally, but physically there, because you shamed them. Even if they're participating, they have checked out. These are really important things to think about. And I'm a huge fan of hockey, but I really want you to think about this, that if you construct your coaching sessions so that you activate that engine, the kid feels confident and competent every single time, they're going to say to you, that was a positive movement experience, and want to come back. They'll get better physically, they'll get better psychologically, better socially, and even better creatively. And that's what we want in hockey. We really want to have, I'd love you to do this, have 2 buckets. Nobody can see. You have a red ball and a green ball. And every single time a child leaves, a participant leaves your coaching session, they grab a red or a green ball and dump it in. You can't be watching them do that. What should you be seeing? You should be 80 to 90% green balls. We need to think like that. I'm not afraid of asking these questions. I just did this in the best school division in Canada and found out that 99% of kids in physical education dropped a green ball. That's impressive. Phys ed can be that good. In the best place in Canada, yes. But I don't even want to ask you how many people in this room had a great phys ed experience and how many had a bad one. That would be a bad question to ask right now. But I want you to think about, are you making it so that you can create positive movement experiences for all? So this is one of my performers I work with. She's a stunt woman for Amazon Prime. She lives in British Columbia, and she does parkour, and she's competent, she's confident, she's motivated, and she's got an upside down smile, and she's enjoying moving right there. So really, physical literacy is about that. It's not about how fit you are. It's not about how many minutes you sweat. It's not about anything but these 4 terms. Inner trust and self-esteem is something that parents value immensely. And we know from science that if you make kids be competent in moving, they'll see it as fun. And if you make them confident in moving, they'll believe in themselves, which is called inner trust. That's self-esteem. So really important, if you're a coach, what are you intentionally doing, not just to make them technically better, but to make them believe that they're responsible for their development. And I'll say one thing that we are sometimes bad at in coaching. Hey, I'm a really good coach. I can make you do this skill. I'm going to give you the drills. You do my drills just like I say. You're going to get better. If you're doing that activity, you're basically being the sage on stage and saying you're responsible for their development. As opposed to, here are some good drills. Give it a try. Oh, they get better. This is wonderful. Then they realize I'm confident in what I'm doing. It's not because of you as a coach. I'm working hard. Don't steal confidence from children. I know you're a good coach. The best coach don't say anything like that. They don't make it an ownership of the progress of the child. I can go through today, and I'd love to come back with Peter and hockey and help you understand how to do confidence building in practices and how to avoid confidence erosion. And I want you to leave today thinking about what are the things you do in your practices that can erode confidence and what can build confidence. USA Hockey on their webinar. I did a whole seminar. You can listen to it on confidence building by design. And you can listen to that web link a little bit more in detail. Belonging is a really important concept. Do you belong in hockey? Is this my home? And if you're accepted for who you are, whether you're male, female, transgender, whether you're indigenous or from Syria, a newcomer to Canada, everybody should feel some level of belonging in the sport that they participate in. If it's not the sport that they feel belonging in, they go bye-bye. And that's what happens. So developing belonging, not conformity. Conformity is the US way of thinking fit in. Fitting in is not belonging. Canadians think more about belonging. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is gender bias. I do tons of research on this. And I was just with Billie Jean King, who you may know from USA Tennis, and Kathleen, who's the head of the WTA. And she said to me very appropriately that a lot of men think about the women's game and they think that this is the solution. And this is the joke part. She says, pink it and shrink it, which is not a feminist point of view. Many men don't understand that you just don't pink it and shrink it to make females participate in a sport. We need to really think differently about what does it mean to prevent gender bias. And I'm going to be clear what that is. Gender bias means I have expectations for females and I have expectations for males. The data says very clearly, even if you're a Canadian parent who thinks you treat your boys and girls the same, and you think you do, as early as 6 months, it is very clear males treat their male babies with higher expectations than their female babies. Females treat their females' babies with lower expectation than their males, even if they say they treat them the same. Pink and blue is ingrained in our society, and you can't untangle that perfectly. But I'm going to show you some data here that's going to scare you. So gender bias or mistreatment is a society that derails development of females due to poor pedagogy or poor coaching sessions in both education, sport, and performing arts. It breaks the connection between competence and confidence, which we don't want to do. So we measured 6,000 kids, and this is easy to understand. The green are girls, the blue are boys. When we measure from 6 years of age to 12 years of age or 13, girls have lower throwing competence than boys. And under that age, there are almost no sex differences, meaning there should be no differences. The ability to throw should be identical. And yet females don't have the same throwing competence as males. When we go here, there's 16 different movement skills that are listed there. When the boys are better than the girls, the bars are to the right. When the girls are better than the boys, the bars are to the left. Boys have 14 movement skills, girls have 1. The answer should be there should be no difference at all. You may have never seen the best female hockey player because they lost competence in schools and they never came to you to even try out. The best people in the world haven't been seen yet on a great likelihood. So now the next thing is, I'll show you this one. So boys have 14 Lego blocks to make movements, girls have 1. This is the same people, and we asked females, do you feel confident in moving? And we went from 6 years of age again to 13, and you can see at age 6, boys and girls in blue and green feel the same level of confidence in movement. Yay. If it's in the green, that's confidence. If it's in the coral, it's not confident. You'll see that by age 8, when girls' competence begins to lag behind the boys, throwing, kicking, running, etc., by age 9, 10, and 11, females' confidence in green drops. And the average Canadian female by age 13 does not associate confidence with movement. This is 44,000 Canadian children. This ain't a discussion. This is a crime. Next slide is even the bigger crime. If you look at, turn your heads like that. It says, I believe that being physically active makes me happy. Pretty important question, right? Do you like do you associate happiness with movement? 5-year-olds, look at them. That's the first bars. 5-year-olds are crazy, drunken little maniacs. You can't stop those little folks from moving around, which drives their parents crazy. By age 6, they're still boys and girls are happy moving. Age 7, boys and girls are happy moving. But that's when the competence separates. By age 9, the confidence separates. And look what happens. At age 10, 11, 12, 13, females begin to associate unhappiness with movement in Canada, Sweden, and the United States. I show you these graphs because that's culture. That's gender bias. Lower expectations for females, higher expectations for males. That's a gender bias. That's me. That I don't care whether you're male or female or masculine or feminine, that's gender identity. If I perceive you as masculine, I'll give you higher expectations. If I perceive you as feminine, I'll give you lower expectations. We need to fix this in hockey. If you're coaching women's hockey, fix that. Make sure you develop competence and confidence simultaneously. Otherwise, this is going to happen. In soccer, this results, and I'm not joking, not an injury you see in your sport very much. Females pop their anterior cruciate ligament 6 times to every 1 boy. 6 to 1. Because of this data, the government of Canada created this program called movement preparation, which I think you should consider for your sport, called hockey preparation. And when we applied this in a bunch of teams across Canada, women's ACL injuries went from 6 to 1 to 1.5 to 1 because we developed the competence and the confidence to move. And if you develop confidence to move, their performance went up and they had less injuries further. This is an example of fixing the gender bias problem. We in hockey really, and this is just an overview. I live in Winnipeg, so I'm happy to help out any team, anywhere. Peter, give my cell phone number out. I will help in any regard to fix these problems. So hopefully today what I've done for you is given you a little bit of a sense for sport powered by physical literacy. It can be used, if you think about that engine, to make a lot of changes in your coaching practices, a lot of changes to thinking about the whole person instead of just a technical skill set. It takes us away from thinking that fitness is the thing that makes a better athlete. It's competence and movement that makes a better athlete, not fitness. Fitness comes along for the ride. And certainly if you apply adult fitness training principles to a child, that shouldn't happen. And I know in this city it does a lot. We have to be very careful with those notions. How much time do I have left, Peter? No. I'm going to have you do this. I'm going to go back a couple slides, and I want you to have a chat at your table. I'm going to put this graph here. And I want you about your table to talk amongst yourselves about what are the practices you should do to develop confidence in a coaching session, and what are the practices you shouldn't do that erode confidence. It'll start going, let me tell you. I've done this a few times. So talk about what builds confidence and what destroys it. Go for it. Start. Okay, ready? 30 seconds. What erodes confidence?
An example that we had was when coaches yell at kids, but also yelling at them on the bench in front of teammates.
Yeah, it's a classic one. Constructive or destructive feedback. Very critical. I got a lot of head nods going there. Anybody else? This table, a destructive behavior. Go for it. Yeah.
Well, you started by saying celebrating effort on a decision without fear of the outcome. So a defenseman pinching and it gets by them. But then the flip side of that was you shaming them, whether it's in public or on the bench, about that missed opportunity.
That's fantastic. Everybody, that's a critical one, just like this one about yelling. Success is not the opposite. Failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is part of success. But if you say the word failure in front of all your teams, they're going to go like this. Watch. They're trying to avoid failure, but failure is part of success, not the opposite. I know for sure we could have a whole workshop on this, coming up with ideas like you came through, and make a whole list. Then you have to make a whole list about what builds confidence at the same time. And then I'm going to ask you, what are the drills that you're using in your sessions that are confidence building versus confidence eroding? Next time you get on ice, think about it. Look at the kids who are cowering in the corner. I don't want to do this in front of 30 other kids. I go to finish hockey, everybody's moving all the time. Nobody's worried about failing in front of another person, etc. So I think we had enough discussion about this. I don't want to take you over time. I want to thank you very much for your attention. And I really want to help hockey in Manitoba and in Canada. So thank you very much for your time.
Thanks very much for that, Dean. That was very impressive and a lot of great information there. At the same time, rather disturbing where we are as a sport and some of the things that you identified. And certainly just when you talk about confidence and how quickly that can erode the confidence of a player when you're critical of that. And I think that's one of the things that we certainly as a sport need to change our limiting beliefs and address those issues. But really enjoyed your presentation, your talk. A lot of thought-provoking things there that we can introduce and just make small changes. If we make those little changes and we're moving in the right direction, that's going to be a benefit. So picked up something here for you. Unfortunately, it's a collared shirt, so I know you're not used to wearing those collared shirts, but hopefully you'll get an opportunity to wear it in our brand when you're off in Vegas or Sweden or anywhere else in the world. So once again, really appreciate you coming down and spending some time with us. Okay, we're just going to take about a 3-minute break there, and then we're going to finish up with our last session of the evening. Okay, thank you.